Oh, hi there, guys. So, I wanted to do a video today talking about Zia Yusuf of Reform UK's claims about the Motability Scheme. Now, before I get into it, I'd be extremely grateful if you could subscribe to the channel for daily analysis of politics and the economy. And please do like the video if you find what I talk about interesting at all. So, as you can see on the screen there, Zia Yusuf, who was previously party chairman of Reform and who is now head of their Doge team, he's taken to X to raise some issues with the Motability Scheme. Unfortunately, most of what Zia said here is a load of bollocks, frankly. So I thought I would do a quick video to debunk a lot of what he said. So, very briefly, I'm going to explain how the Motability Scheme works. Essentially, you can get access to the Motability Scheme if you are in receipt of the higher rate mobility element of either DLA or PIP in England. It varies slightly in the other countries within the UK, but that's the case in England. If you choose to access Motability, the money is then taken at source by the scheme. So they will deduct the money for the car directly from your PIP or DLA. If you want a more expensive car or a larger car, perhaps with space for a wheelchair, then you need to make what's called an advance payment in addition to the monthly payments. And that's something that you have to pay. Typically, the lease for a Motability vehicle would be 3 or 5 years, but if your circumstances change and if you are no longer eligible for the mobility element of PIP or DLA, then you'll no longer be eligible for Motability either. So that's it in a nutshell. Now, in terms of Zia Yusuf's claims there in his tweet, so firstly, you don't have a medical exam when you apply for PIP or DLA. So he's being intentionally disingenuous there. You are assessed based on the evidence that you submit when you make your claim. You then have an assessment, and it may be a face-to-face assessment or it may be done over the phone. 2, he says that 20% of cars are now provided by Motability, and that is correct. However, what he omits to mention is that it's 1 in 5 new cars on the road are Motability Scheme vehicles. But that's a feature of the scheme. So they don't provide used cars. So that is not a surprising statistic. Number 3, PIP and DLA are not out of work benefits. So there is no means testing. The mobility element of PIP and DLA is based on your mobility needs, not on your income. Now, I personally think it's positive that people of all incomes in this country are supported to be more mobile, as that generally helps people into work and helps people lead a more productive life. And finally, he wildly claims that the government are suggesting everyone in the UK should get a free car. That is totally ludicrous. It's a complete straw man and it's wildly inaccurate. I can tell Zia Yusuf for a fact that it is extremely difficult to get the higher rate of either PIP or DLA. So what he's talking about is just a load of rubbish there, frankly. I wanted to touch on the bigger issue here of why is Zia Yusuf and why Reform targeting disabled people and people with long-term health issues. So there's been a lot of attention this week on the rights of disabled people and those with long-term health conditions because the government's been pushing through with their welfare reform bill in Parliament. So Reform have obviously calculated that this is a wedge issue with, as they would perceive it, the weak and financially reckless Labour Party. But this issue around welfare and benefits has been in Reform's sights for quite some time now. So earlier this year, Farage was saying that, and I quote, "I have to say, for my own money, when you get to 18 and you put somebody on a disability register, unemployed, with a high level of benefits, you're telling people aged 18 that they're victims. And if you are told you are a victim and you think you're a victim, you are very likely to stay as a victim." And then they also said in the manifesto that work was, quote, "critical to improving mental health," and that, quote, "all job seekers and those fit to work would have to find employment within 4 months or accept a job after 2 offers. Otherwise, benefits would be withdrawn." So there's a much wider culture war issue at play here, which is that Reform UK are saying that mental health issues are overdiagnosed. They're saying that too many people are soft, not willing to work, and that young people in particular are snowflakes and just not tough enough. So I'm sure their political calculation is that there are enough people out there who believe the old lies about scroungers on benefits and, that there are people driving around in Ferraris on Motability. But the reality is that this is just David Cameron's playbook from 2010 onwards. So we've seen it all before. It's not a new phenomenon, this sort of fear-mongering and this sort of demonisation of disabled people. And then in terms of their wider policy platform, as we saw with Brexit, if you want to push through unpopular and unworkable policies, which is what cuts of £15 billion would be, then you need a sizable portion of the population to believe quite a few lies about the issues at hand. And that is exactly what Zia Yusuf is doing here, totally misrepresenting the situation. The reason I wanted to do this video today was because we need to counter the lies that we are being presented with every turn. And we need to help people who, maybe fortunately are not coming into contact with PIP or DLA. We need to help those people understand the reality of life in the UK for someone with a disability or a long-term health condition, because it's not Lamborghinis and Ferraris on Motability. It's absolutely miserable. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.